Hi guys, welcome to the podcast, Chin Up and Rise. Today we have with us a very special guest, Judy Zhang, founder of an artisanal bakery, NYPone Bakery, formerly known as Kaya Butter. Judy took on many roles before finally venturing out to start her own baking business 2 years back in 2021. As someone who has experience working in corporate and small local businesses before finally being her own employer, Judy will be sharing with us today on the different obstacles she faced for each respective roles she took on and how it has value add to her business today. Despite spending close to 10 years working as an employee, Judy's passion to start her own bakery remained ignited and she eventually left a stable salaried paying career to pursue her dreams. I believe a lot of us out there are able to relate with this. Therefore, without further ado, let us dive straight in and find out what were her thought processes and what empowered Judy to take that leap of faith. Hi Judy, thanks for coming to the show.
Hello, Jeannie. Good to see you.
Yeah, okay, so first question, right, is what actually, have you always wanted to start your own baking business?
I think it has always been at the back of my mind, since I started work. I've always thought about wanting to start a bakery,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what exactly. But also, bread baking is something that is relatively new to me back then. It was something that I was curious about when I first started work, but I wouldn't say that it was a strong passion until maybe a few years in, and then it kind of grew on me. Working in my first job and then just discovering that there's so much to learn about bread baking, and it's quite a satisfying process, to see the bread dough rise from a small piece, double in size, and then in the oven again when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's just a very satisfying process. So I think through the years then, it became a more certain belief that
Right.
I did want to try starting my own bakery.
So that is how your love for bread came about? Or is it all along you actually love eating bread?
I think I've always enjoyed food, and baked goods included. But specifically bread, I would say it was because of my working experience that I really started to like it.
Fell in love for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I think especially was when I learned how to bake the traditional Hainanese loaf. That was in my first job. And it was a bread that I think is just like love at first bite.
Hainanese what?
It's like the yakun toast. That kind of bread. The traditional loaf, the one you eat with kaya butter.
No wonder your baking business is actually called Kaya Butter, right?
Yes. Inspired from that.
Okay, so can you actually give us a very brief background on how NYPone Bakery actually started?
How it started? It's actually a very long journey.
Yeah.
And it's also not, I guess it's also not what I imagined my first physical venture to look like. It's more of like what kind of opportunities came up for me that eventually led me here today.
Yeah.
So since I started working in the baking industry after graduating from NUS in food science and tech, then I went to Prima, right? So I worked for about 5 years there. And over there, it's where I learned that I love bread making and I want to do something about it. But I wasn't sure what yet. So I moved on to other bakeries, working in other bakeries. And then I got a clearer picture. I really like traditional bread, so I want to do something about that. But the opportunities that came up were quite difficult for me to pursue that exactly. So eventually, at first I was looking at hawker locations, because it's more suitable for, say, kaya toast. Yeah, but it was quite difficult for me to find one. So eventually I came to looking into schools.
Right.
And then I heard about this opportunity at Nanyang Polytechnic. And it led to NYPone Bakery as it is now.
Okay. Is that why the spelling of NYPone is actually NYP, Nanyang Poly?
Correct, NYPone.
Okay, so what does the one stand for?
It's actually just based on the location. So it's located in Nanyang Poly Block P1. So it's really like NYPone.
Literally
yes,
NYPone.
correct.
Then what will happen to the name once you shift location?
If I shift, then I think it will have to change. I decided to name it after the location also because I think I have always wanted to do something that is quite community centric, so around where the business is. So I thought it makes sense for me to name it after the location as well. Yeah.
Okay, so your name will change every time you shift your shop?
I think if I moved elsewhere and I was able to sell toast, kaya butter toast, I would revert back to my
kaya
home-based
butter.
business name.
Right,
Yeah,
kaya
kaya
butter.
butter. Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so what are the main things that NYPone Bakery actually sell?
So we have 4 main categories:
Mm.
the buns, muffins, pizza slices, and sandwiches.
Mm.
Yeah, so the buns and muffins are like the more typical hawker style bakes.
Mm.
Yeah, local flavors and like red bean buns, and then I can't remember what we have. Yeah, red bean buns, mochi buns, and then the muffins are like hawker style, apple crumble,
Yeah.
blueberry crumble, just classic. Yeah, very classic stuff.
But I understand you actually started off this bakery with the idea of wanting to do traditional bakes, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but as in from the sound of it, actually doesn't really sound that traditional. So what actually happened in between?
I think it was a lot of negotiating with relatives and what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, throughout the process, like even now. So I wanted to sell traditional breads, but I realized that the capital that I had to start was not feasible for it because the kind of equipment that you need to make the traditional loaf, for example, it is more expensive and it also takes up more space. So I would need a bigger stall space, and all that is just more cost.
Right.
So like after calculations, I thought it's not a very good idea for a first business
Right.
at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's just too much to put in upfront.
But eventually you would love to actually switch back to the traditional bakes?
Definitely. I do think sometime in future that would be like a progression of sorts.
The goal that you are aiming for. Lah. Okay.
I would
Actually,
say.
what made you fall in love, so madly in love with traditional bakes? Because, I mean, cafes or new places that's opening up these days, they're always trying to find ideas on how to infuse maybe different flavors or new flavors to make it a fresh piece of idea, a fresh piece of creation. But being still, how to say, madly in love with your traditional side of things, right? Yeah, how does that work? Yeah.
I think it's also because it's like I have a soft spot for traditional foods, and especially because I feel that like the world and Singapore is moving so fast paced, right? And I think that the future of these foods are not certain anymore. Like in the decades to come, they may slowly disappear.
What do you mean?
I mean things like your char kway teow and then your traditional, even those traditional tau sa pia, you don't find many of them in Singapore anymore.
Traditional have, but you really need to go and look for it.
Correct. It's not common anymore, and
it's true.
It might actually be easier to find a cafe now. So
Yes.
I think it is a good direction for myself, for my own personal beliefs that I would like to be one of the young people who want to go into this line. There are many reasons why people would rather work in other kind of food businesses, definitely.
Wow.
It's more attractive. But I think there is a strong reason, and also it's like some kind of romanticism or nostalgia feeling for traditional foods that will push me to want to go back to these.
Wow. Okay. That is actually that is very forward looking, because it's in a sense that you are actually looking at local bakes as something that will soon die out. That's why having master that artwork in producing local delights will become a rarity, and eventually will become something like I think that's the direction that you're looking towards.
Yeah, I
Correct me if I'm
so.
wrong. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Hope to be able to look up kaya butter next time. Okay, so what are some difficulties you actually went through trying to start your first very physical venture at Nanyang Poly?
I would say in terms of like what you said about traditional flavors, I was trying to champion it, right? But in NYPone Bakery, you don't see it so outrightly.
Yeah.
Because I did have to make like some trade-offs in that aspect. So when I first started, I wanted to sell like red bean buns, ota buns, like very classic flavors. But actually the teenagers nowadays don't really like it.
Teenagers, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So I was quite surprised. But because of that, I'm trying to start the business. I have to be making money.
Yes.
So I had to make changes. So I had to change the product lineup and just change the flavors and see what sells. And then there was once I decided to try making mochi buns because I saw that they're actually quite popular amongst the younger people. But I tried to pair it with traditional flavors. So I did red bean paste, black sesame paste with mochi inside the bread.
Right.
And they actually took off very well until it's like a signature product of sorts for NYPone Bakery now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and of course, before you started this physical venture, right, you were working for various companies, 5 years in Prima and a few other years in other different smaller local businesses. Do you actually think that all these were a waste of time, or you actually did learn a lot from different companies?
Not at all a waste of time, I would say. Yeah, so at every job experience, I thought that I had very good takeaways
Yeah.
about what kind of business I wanted to start or what kind of person I am even. Yeah, so say for example at Prima, that's where I learned that I really enjoyed bread baking. But I think it was still very vague at that time. Like, okay, I want to start a bakery, but what do I want to sell? And at what kind of price point, what kind of scale? I had a lot of question marks still.
Yeah.
So I thought that I should go and work for more people so I get a better idea, like more clarity of what I want as a business owner. So that's why I went into other bakeries. And at each bakery, I also felt that I learned quite a lot about myself. Like I worked in some more Western bakeries, and then I realized that I still prefer the Asian bakes compared to say sourdoughs or croissants. Yeah, it's like Asian bakes is something I can eat every day, but not sourdoughs or croissants. It's like more like a occasional indulgence.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you wouldn't know all this if you actually didn't switch around and look for other jobs, right?
Correct.
Right. And you actually spent a few years with working for Bread Yard as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were working as a manager?
Factory manager.
Factory manager, right? So that's where you actually had to manage a team of a team of people.
Yeah, correct,
So what were some difficulties you actually went through trying to troubleshoot the conflicts between people?
I think that was one of the most difficult things I faced in my career, because I'm like a conflict avoidant person by nature, right? Then as a manager, then there are 2 other colleagues who were constantly at loggerheads with each other. And that was quite stressful for me. Because they were very open about their conflict and very like guys are just throwing vulgarities and all that. So it was quite a shock for me. Like I didn't know how to handle it actually. So I did have quite a lot of difficulty, and it caused me a lot of stress also at that point.
So how do you actually handle it?
So in the end, I should have done it earlier on hindsight. In the end, I seeked help from my boss. Because like I thought, okay, factory manager, you should handle everything yourself, right? But I think sometimes we just have to realize that there are certain things that are not within our capabilities, and then seek help. Especially like if you have a decent boss, and he was very helpful about it. So he didn't like blame me for like having problems or like
So what did your boss actually do in the end to solve this issue?
He had to move certain people, and I think there was also sometimes you need to let go of certain people, to remove the conflict, because actually if you leave it unresolved, it affects the whole team's morale.
So what do you actually take away from all these part-time jobs and full-time jobs that you have, and how do you apply it to your current business right now?
The takeaways they are all like quite varied from each place. But I would say in general, it would be I get an increasingly clear idea of what I want for myself, like what I liked and what I disliked. And for example, at Bread, I learned that I enjoyed one-to-one interaction a lot. So I think that is also something I take with me at the bakery now. Like I really enjoy talking to the customers or even liaising with suppliers, like building a relationship with these people. And then at other bakeries, like I worked at a traditional bakery also, the one at Whampoa, Sing Hong Long. So I had a part-time stint there, and then that was where I found that I really liked the community-centered nature of that bakery, because it has been there for like decades. And people really look at it as like a mainstay in the neighborhood. It's like a community hub of sorts. Because people will go there for all kinds of things, not just bread. Like they will go and ask for like, oh, at the nearby market, what is the nice thing to eat there? Or they will ask you like, which bus should I take to go to Toa Payoh? And it's just it's like a very
like cozy
and
kind
like
of
a lot
feeling.
of 人情味, that kind of thing. And then the boss is also very on good terms with a lot of regulars. So sometimes like they forget to bring cash, and then they will just be like, oh, next time then you pay, it's okay. Yeah, so I really like that kind of culture. And I think that it's also quite rare to find nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe that's the direction that you wish your bakery will actually venture in towards.
I think that is the kind of feeling I want customers to have when they come to the bakery.
Okay.
Yeah.
And working for a traditional bakery like that, right? Versus a big corporate company like Prima Deli. What are the vast differences that you can actually pick up?
The main, like the very obvious difference would be in terms of job scope. Yeah, because at a big company, your job scope is quite clearly defined. And it's but at a small company and a traditional business, it's like you kind of pao ka liao lah, right? You have to do a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's similar to startups also, right?
Correct. I think it's a very similar idea.
Yeah.
And then in terms of environment as well, in a big company, you get like a nice office, and then mostly everything is quite new and well kept. But at an old traditional business, it's like no aircon, and then it's like maybe a squat toilet.
Really traditional all the way.
Things like that. Okay. I mean, it's nostalgic for the customer, but as a worker there, it is quite difficult.
Right.
Yeah, correct. I think that is partly why like not many young people want to go into traditional food businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so for some of the fresh grads out there, or people who are actually looking to do a job switch between a big corporate company and between a startup, for example, what advice would you actually give them when they are at crossroads trying to choose where to go? Because every kind of company will actually have their perks and their learning points, right?
Correct.
And since you have been to both, maybe you can give us an idea of how we can go about choosing it.
I think I don't have like a definite framework to go with, but what I think is important is actually because like you said, each of it will have its own pros and cons.
Yeah.
So it's a very personal decision. Like what is more important to you at that point of time? Like what do you want to learn? And also more importantly, I think it is a kind of mindset to go into when you approach these kind of decisions. It's like no matter what you choose and no matter the outcomes, you have to have faith that you have your own back. Like you can take the consequences. Yeah.
Meaning to have a backup plan? Is that what I mean?
As in you don't go into like self-criticism or like
okay.
Yeah. If the decision turns out to be one that's not suitable for you.
Right. Okay. So with what kind of mindset should we be having when we go into a situation like this?
I think just one of learning. Like regardless whether you end up staying in the job or not, it's it won't be a wasted opportunity.
Right.
I think maybe that's a fear, like, oh, I waste my time doing something that turns out to be not for me.
Correct.
Yeah. But I think it's precisely these kinds of moments that offer a lot of self-discovery and also learning.
Right.
Yeah. And it will help you make much better choices in future. Yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't take it as like you're wasting your own time.
Right. Okay. So with the mindset of always learning and that no matter where you go, there's always something for you to actually take away. I feel like no matter where you go, it will be a good thing, right? It doesn't matter
Correct.
if it's a big company or a small company.
Correct. In some ways, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good piece of advice. And throughout all this time, right, that you have been working for corporate, close to 10 years, was there ever a time where you felt like, actually maybe I don't want to start a business at all. I don't even want to start my own baking business. I just want to continue working for people.
I think at every job transition, I always had that question. As in not so much like I don't want, but that I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there was definitely the doubt and like weighing again.
Mm.
Because working for someone else is definitely much more stable in
Yeah,
terms
correct.
of salary.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens, right? You just draw a consistent pay throughout.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And it's a lot more, I would say, comfortable.
Yes, definitely lah.
Yeah.
And I think especially in F&B also,
Mm.
it's just when you start by yourself, it's like long hours and like not very good environment sometimes.
Mm.
But in a big company, you get better salary and then you get more benefits and
Yeah.
you get more defined work hours.
Yeah, yeah,
it's,
of course.
it's definitely like, why would you choose the other option?
Yeah, because
right?
yeah, correct.
Yeah. But I think it's also like a you don't try, you don't know lah.
Mm.
Yeah, correct. Because I think the takeaways that you get are not monetary. You cannot measure with money. Yeah. But I think also something important to think about is that this comes from a position of some privilege to be able to say that, yeah, because not everyone can make these kind of decisions.
It's true.
Yeah, to say that, oh, I don't need to care so much about money.
Yeah, correct.
And I just go with what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, okay. So, what are some of the main differences, or how do you think you have changed from before when you were actually working for when you were an employee versus now that you're an employer?
Changes.
Yeah.
I would say the one that stands out to me most is that embracing uncertainty has become quite a big theme or like some kind of life philosophy for me now.
Your life motto right now.
Correct. Because starting out on your own is really so much uncertainty. Like, will I still be doing this in the next year? Or like 5 years down, 10 years down, where will this take me? It's like very big question marks. Yeah, but if you work in a more stable job, you can see a much more defined career path. Yeah. So I think, embracing uncertainty is quite important to me now. And it's not so much like, I don't know where I'll be because I'm not confident or I have a lot of self-doubts. It's more of like, I don't know where I'll be, and that is okay. Because I know that regardless, I'll be learning and I'll be enjoying the journey. Yeah. So it's kind of like a shift in mindset.
Right. What's that saying? Failure is the mother of all success, right?
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
So, have you ever met with any setbacks or difficulties when you're working for an employer last time? Not specifically an employer, but in the past 10 years of work, have you ever met with any difficulties?
I think for sure, especially when I first started work, I think I found it difficult to be my own person in some sense. Yeah, because I had very good mentors when I first started work, and there's always that sense of like gratitude and respect and looking up to them. So like you want to follow their wishes or what they want to do, and sometimes it's at the expense of like your own principles or what you believe in, or even if you think something is wrong, you might do it. So I had such an experience, and and in the end, I made choices that hurt people. That I think that kind of lesson has stayed with me all this time. Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you actually emerge stronger from that situation? And what are some things you can actually say to empower the ladies, or not even ladies or guys out there to stand firm to their principles when faced with this kind of situation?
I think at that point of time, I took a long time to like come to terms with or like trying to understand like why is it so hard to stand up to someone I admire. Yeah, because maybe maybe mentors in your career, especially when you are just starting out in your career, you hold them on a certain pedestal. Yeah. And it can be very hard to and they can be very nice people and very decent, good people. But I mean, if there are some things they do that you don't agree with, and it's hard for you to talk about it. I mean, directly to them. I think firstly, talking to a trusted friend would help for sure. Yeah,
to have a different perspective.
Yeah, correct. And for me, talking to a friend was what kickstarted like the whole realization that it's that it's not that I was helpless in the situation, but it's more of like I didn't want to make difficult choices. Yeah.
What do you mean by difficult choices?
So, I mean, sometimes it's just easier to go with the flow, right? Like if everyone wants to
okay.
go this way, you don't want to be the one who says no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes, yeah, I think that's what's difficult.
Yeah.
And then also I went to like do a lot of self-help reading and all that. And I realized that it's partly because I have these people-pleasing tendencies and I have difficulty setting boundaries. Yeah. So that was something that I learned a lot. Yeah.
Which is to be firm, set your own boundary, and if someone was to cross that boundary of yours, or if you were to cross that boundary, doesn't matter who the other party is, we should always stand firm and tell the person no if things like this happen.
Definitely standing up to what you believe in is important.
Okay.
But I think it's also important to realize sometimes it's not easy because maybe it's a small workplace or it's a small industry.
Yeah.
And if it's someone who is like of a high status, a mentor, you cannot just offend them, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I think there's also no shame in realizing that the best option can sometimes be to leave. Yeah.
To leave the place that you're working at.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt, I mean, going back to NYPone, right? NYPone Bakery, have you ever felt stress in handling this business?
Stress for sure, but I wouldn't say it was like crushing stress. Yeah. Somehow I do think that it has been quite a nice journey so far. I think a big point is also because my dad is helping me. So I have like a lot of stability in that area. Yeah, and I have somebody that I know I can count on.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps me. It takes a lot of stress off me in that aspect. Yeah, correct. Because I have family support.
Okay. So what is your system when, let's say, you're dealing with some negative emotions or some downtimes in terms of business returns?
I think it's always a chance to like look inwards, right?
Yeah.
And just acknowledge that these feelings are there. And it's not like I have to make them go away. It's more of just accept that, okay, maybe I'm feeling upset or maybe I'm feeling like not so capable. Yeah. And it's okay lah. Yeah, like it's okay to be not okay, right? Yeah.
I think that's the name of a Korean drama.
Yes. I think it's a good way to look at emotions that we typically are uncomfortable to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you address all these emotions?
I think once you accept that it's okay for me to feel like that, then it becomes easier to go into a more action mode. Like
Solutions.
Yeah, correct. Now that I know I'm feeling like this, then what can I do about it? Yeah. Because if you struggle with the accepting the emotion, then it is just gonna ball into this like a lot of flooding of your thoughts that then you cannot get a very clear idea like what to do to get out of it.
Okay. Do you do anything like how do you make sure that while you're running the business, you do not neglect the other aspects of life, like family, friends, health?
I think for now, for me, it's still okay because I'm running a business in a school and the hours are like office hours of sorts. So it has still been manageable for me because the store is not open on weekends. So I'm still able to find time for family and friends. But I would say if you're working in a typical F&B, it can be more challenging because like the holiday time is when you're busiest typically. Yeah. And then it just becomes, you have to be very mindful about it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And what are so for people who are actually wanting to start a physical shop, what are some pointers you can actually give them when they are looking for a suitable location to start their business, like for a shop front?
I would think that the first constraint is definitely capital. Like how much can you afford? So I think being very careful about calculating that is important because you want to give yourself the longest runway possible. And runway in terms of time, meaning that you need to stretch whatever capital you have over the longest possible time so that you give yourself more chances to fail and like fail fast and fail small so that you can keep changing and adapting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a very good piece of advice. And what are your entrepreneurial beliefs, for NYPone Bakery?
I think for the bakery, right? Firstly, I would say, like even before you start a business, it's good to learn from others, like what I have done before starting. So especially if you're not someone who has a very clear vision. I think some people are gifted with that. They already know, like, I definitely want to do this and it's going to look like that.
Yeah.
But I think many of us are not blessed with that kind of vision, right?
I think
And start a
majority of us
business.
are not like that.
Yeah, right. Then the best way I think is to learn through other people. So you learn by working various for different maybe F&Bs. Yeah. And I think it's actually not difficult in F&B especially because it's quite easy to come by part-time jobs. Yeah. So that's a very good way to get insight
More experience
into,
as to how it's like. Yeah.
Also, I would say start small and then stay flexible. And what I mean is that because you typically have limited capital to start with, right? So you don't want to be, say, holding a lot of inventory. Like you spend all the money buying, say, packaging, because packaging is like, oh, you must buy 3,000 pieces. And then for ingredients, it's like, I must buy in cartons because it's cheaper per unit. Yeah. So sometimes even though it's cheaper per unit to buy in bulk, but it might not be a good idea at the start. Yeah, especially if you're not exactly, like this is the first venture and you're not exactly sure what will work. Yeah. So I would say that keep yourself flexible. Yeah. And then also, one very important point I think is actually to prioritize your own health, like mental and physical health, especially in F&B.
Yeah.
Because
you
it's
work to the bones.
it's a physically demanding job.
Correct.
Like you're on your feet most of the day. And then the hours are long.
Yes.
And especially if you're a small business or like a solo entrepreneur, then if you're gone, the business is gone, right? Like even if the business is taking off and doing really well, if you burn out like mentally because there's just too much stress, or like even physically if you get injured, then that's it for the business, right? So I think it's actually quite important, to take care of mental and physical health. Yeah.
Do you have any ways that you are doing to actually take care of your own mental and physical health?
I think it's just a lot of reflection, like regular reflection in terms of the mental state. Like to check in with yourself and see like how am I feeling, and am I especially stressed or tired, and then just go about doing things that will sort of fix that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any activities for that? I mean, you can just throw a few so that it's easier for them to, when they are stressed or when they're feeling down, they can actually try it out. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have very fixed activities.
Yeah. For you, just baking is distressing already.
Baking, yes, but I would say actually very important is sleep.
How many hours do you sleep a day?
7, but actually I need more like 8. So I'm always trying to tell myself to sleep earlier.
Okay.
And then just have to be quite disciplined about it, even though it's difficult sometimes.
Right, because I understand you actually do have to wake up slightly earlier, right, to start your bakes. And all your bakes are freshly baked daily. Yeah, so you wake up slightly earlier than the rest to kickstart your shop. So how early do you actually sleep?
Actually, I wouldn't say I sleep very early, like 11-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still quite normal.
I think 11-ish, okay lah. It's okay.
Yeah,
I think most people nowadays sleep like 1, 2 a.m.
I used to now, but I really cannot afford to now. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe before we end the show, right, can you actually give us 3 main takeaways that you actually had from the past 10 years of your working experience?
I would say the first one is embracing uncertainty, right? Yeah. So you don't need to have very fixed long-term goals, like career goals or relationship goals even. Or like 5 to 10 years, I must be earning this much or at this position. Yeah. I think going with life's direction sometimes.
Go with the flow.
I'm a bit like hesitant to say that also because sometimes you just end up like not
The flow is
deciding,
not good.
right?
Okay.
It's more of go with the flow, but it's like consciously. It's not because you are not deciding, but it's because you are deciding that this is best for you at that moment. Yeah.
So being intentional.
Correct.
I would say.
But at that moment, and it's not like don't need to tie your identity to like a goal 5 years down the road.
Okay.
Like if I don't achieve this in 5 years, then I'm not going to be happy. Yeah. So you don't need to tie yourself to that kind of goal, but rather just embrace that different opportunities can come along, and then you can want different things along the way, and it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. And the last one?
One more would be work for others to learn more about yourself. Yeah, especially if you want to start a business.
Okay. So, the learning mindset, right? And the attitude.
Correct. And it's just a way for you to get more clarity on what works for you, what you like, what you don't like, what you value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can. And so before you go, maybe you would like to give a shout out to NYPone Bakery?
Okay. NYPone Bakery is located at Nanyang Poly, Block P1. And we are open on school days, so Mondays to Fridays, about 10 to 6 p.m. And you can find us on Instagram at NYPone Bakery, that is NYPone Bakery. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I will drop by your shop for more taste.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in to Chin Up and Rise. We have also collated the key pointers of today's episodes. All you can do is actually click the link down below to have access to all this. And you can also follow us on the social media handles down below for more content and update. Before you go, do remember to give us a like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.